You have been lied to about what makes you attractive to women, and those lies are keeping you trapped in cycles of rejection and emotional pain that destroy your confidence and self-respect. The modern dating advice industry wants you to believe that being nice, accommodating, and persistent will eventually win her heart. But Friedrich Nietzsche understood something about human nature that most men never discover. The very behaviors you think make you a good man are actually what make you invisible to the women you desire most. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal the counterintuitive truth about why ignoring her comeback attempt is not just the best strategy, but the only strategy that will make her genuinely regret losing you forever. Nietzsche believed that all human behavior stems from the will to power, the fundamental drive to assert dominance and control over our environment. In relationships, this translates into a brutal truth most men refuse to accept. The moment you start chasing her comeback, you surrender your power and hand it directly to her. She becomes the master and you become the slave begging for scraps of attention. This dynamic is so common that women can smell desperation from miles away, and it repels them faster than any insult ever could. When you chase after someone who left, you are operating from a position of weakness and scarcity. You are essentially telling her that your life has no meaning without her validation and presence. Nietzsche would argue that this behavior comes from slave morality, the mindset of those who define themselves through others rather than creating their own values and meaning. Every text message you send, every social media, like every attempt to win her back, is proof that you have abandoned your own will to power in favor of seeking her approval. The secret lies in understanding that true power comes from within and cannot be given or taken by another person. When you stop chasing and start focusing on your own growth and purpose, you tap into what Nietzsche called the aristocratic spirit. This is the mindset of someone who creates value rather than seeking it from others. The irony is that the moment you genuinely stop needing her comeback is often the moment she starts wanting to return, not because of manipulation, but because power and self-sufficiency are naturally attractive qualities that draw people in. Nietzsche distinguished between two types of morality that define how people navigate relationships. Master morality comes from those who create their own values and live by their own rules. They decide what is good or bad based on their own strength and purpose. Slave morality, on the other hand, is reactive. It defines itself in opposition to the master and seeks validation through being agreeable and accommodating. Most men in relationships operate from slave morality without even realizing it. The nice guy who always texts back immediately, who never disagrees, and who puts her needs before his own is living pure slave morality. He has accepted that his role is to serve and please rather than to lead and create value. This is why nice guys finish last, not because women prefer jerks, but because they are attracted to the confidence that comes from master morality. When you operate from this mindset, you make decisions based on your own values rather than what you think will make her happy. Master morality in relationships means setting boundaries, enforcing standards, and being willing to walk away when those standards are not met. It means being kind but not accommodating, generous but not desperate. When she sees that you have your own moral code that does not revolve around her approval, she begins to respect and desire you more. The man who lives by his own rules is infinitely more attractive than the one who lives by hers. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch represents the man who has transcended conventional thinking and created his own path in life. This is not about being superior to others, but about becoming superior to your former self, constantly evolving and refusing to accept mediocrity. In relationships, the Übermensch mindset means you are not defined by whether she stays or goes, because your identity comes from your own achievements and growth rather than external validation. The average man bases his self-worth on how women respond to him. If she ignores him, he feels worthless, and if she gives him attention, he feels valuable. The Übermensch has moved beyond this reactive existence and instead focuses on becoming the best version of himself regardless of external circumstances. He pursues his goals with relentless determination. He develops his mind and body. He builds something meaningful in the world. The self-directed focus creates an aura of confidence and purpose that is magnetic to others. When you embody the Ubermensch mindset, you become genuinely indifferent to her comeback because you are too busy creating an extraordinary life. This is not fake indifference or playing games. It is the natural result of having something more important to focus on than her approval. Women are drawn to men who seem to be living in a different reality, one where they are the main character of their own story rather than a supporting character in hers. Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence asks a profound question. If you had to live your exact life over and over again for eternity, would you be satisfied with your choices? Applied to relationships, this becomes a powerful tool for self-reflection. If you had to experience this exact dynamic with her forever, the chasing, the rejection, the emotional roller coaster, would you choose to live it again? Most men would answer no, yet they continue the same patterns, hoping for different results. Eternal recurrence forces you to confront the truth about your behavior and motivations. Are you chasing her because you genuinely believe the relationship has value, or because your ego cannot accept rejection? Are you trying to win her back because you love who she is, or because you hate feeling like you lost? When you imagine repeating this cycle forever, it becomes clear that most comeback attempts are driven by wounded pride rather than genuine desire for connection. The man who truly embraces eternal recurrence would only pursue relationships and behaviors that he would be proud to repeat infinitely. This means focusing on becoming someone worth choosing rather than convincing someone to choose you. It means building a life so fulfilling that whether she returns becomes irrelevant to your happiness. When you can honestly say you would live your current path forever, you have achieved the kind of authentic confidence that naturally attracts others without effort or manipulation. Nietzsche challenged the idea that there are universal moral truths that apply to everyone in every situation. His concept of beyond good and evil suggests that what society labels as good or bad is often just a reflection of power dynamics rather than absolute truth. In dating, this means recognizing that the rules women set for relationships are not universal laws, but strategies designed to maintain their advantage in the sexual marketplace. Society tells men they should always be respectful, patient, and accommodating in relationships. These are presented as moral imperatives. Good men follow these rules and bad men break them. But Nietzsche would argue that these are not moral truths, but social constructs that keep men in a position of weakness. The respectful, patient man who waits for her to decide his fate is operating within her frame rather than his own. Going beyond good and evil in dating means creating your own relationship standards based on what actually works rather than what society says you should do. This does not mean being cruel or manipulative. It means being honest about sexual dynamics and refusing to play by rules that disadvantage you. When you stop trying to be the good guy according to her definition and start being the authentic man according to your own values, you become far more attractive because authenticity is rare and powerful. Nietzsche believed that suffering was not something to be avoided, but rather the raw material for personal transformation. He famously said that what does not destroy you makes you stronger. But this is not passive endurance, but active self-overcoming. When she rejects you or leaves, you have two choices. You can let the pain diminish you, or you can use it as fuel to become a better version of yourself. Most men choose the first option and wonder why they keep attracting the same problems. Self-overcoming means taking responsibility for your role in the relationship's failure, without falling into self-hatred or victim mentality. It means honestly examining your weaknesses and working to improve them, not to win her back, but to ensure you never repeat the same mistakes. This process is painful because it requires confronting uncomfortable truths about yourself. But this pain is productive. Unlike the pain of chasing someone who does not want you, the man who masters self-overcoming becomes anti-fragile. Each rejection makes him stronger and more attractive to future partners. He learns from every failure and uses that knowledge to level up his game, his mindset, and his life. When she eventually sees what you have become through this process of transformation, she will regret losing the opportunity to grow alongside you. But by then you will have moved so far beyond who you were that her regret becomes irrelevant to your happiness. When a relationship ends, many men fall into nihilistic thinking, believing that love is meaningless, that all women are the same, and that effort in relationships is pointless. Nietzsche understood nihilism as a necessary stage in human development, but warned against getting stuck there. The nihilistic man becomes bitter and resentful, using his pain as an excuse to give up on growth and connection. This mindset is exactly what keeps you trapped in cycles of failed relationships and emotional stagnation. Nietzsche advocated for life affirmation, the active creation of meaning and values even in the face of suffering and uncertainty. In relationships, this means deciding what kind of man you want to be and what kind of partnership you want to create regardless of past failures. Instead of concluding that all relationships are doomed, you use your experiences to develop better standards and stronger boundaries. You create your own relationship philosophy based on your values rather than society's expectations. Life affirmation in dating means approaching each interaction with curiosity and possibility. While maintaining realistic expectations, you do not chase or come back because you are too busy building the kind of life that naturally attracts quality partners. You create meaning through your own growth and achievements rather than seeking it through another person's validation. This shift from nihilistic despair to life-affirming purpose makes you magnetic because people are drawn to those who radiate genuine enthusiasm for existence. Nietzsche identified resentment as one of the most toxic emotions because it keeps you psychologically chained to the person who hurt you. When she leaves or rejects you, the natural impulse is to fantasize about making her pay, imagining scenarios where she realizes her mistake and comes crawling back filled with regret. This revenge thinking feels satisfying in the moment, but it is actually poison that destroys your ability to move forward and attract better relationships. Resentment turns you into what Nietzsche called a reactive person, someone whose emotions and actions are controlled by external events rather than internal purpose. Every moment you spend plotting her downfall or hoping for her regret is a moment stolen from your own growth and happiness. The resentful man becomes obsessed with the past instead of creating his future. He defines himself by what was done to him rather than what he chooses to do next. The antidote to resentment is not forgiveness in the traditional sense, but rather indifference born from genuine self-focus. When you are truly committed to building an extraordinary life, her actions become irrelevant to your emotional state. You stop needing her to suffer in order for you to feel good about yourself. This liberation from resentment is what creates authentic confidence and magnetism. You become attractive not because you are trying to prove something, but because you have moved beyond the need to prove anything at all. Amor fati, or love of fate, represents Nietzsche's ultimate philosophy of accepting and embracing everything that happens to you, including pain and loss. In relationships, this means reaching a point where you can genuinely appreciate her leaving, because it forced you to grow in ways you never would have otherwise. This is not about pretending rejection feels good, but about recognizing that every experience, including the painful ones, contributes to your development as a man. Most men waste years fighting against reality, wishing things had gone differently and believing their lives would be better if she had stayed. Amor fati teaches you to love your actual life rather than the fantasy version you think you deserved. When you truly embrace this philosophy, you stop seeing her departure as a tragedy and start seeing it as a necessary step in your evolution. You realize that the man you are becoming through this experience is worth more than the relationship you lost. Practicing amor fati in relationships means being grateful for every connection, even the ones that end badly, because each one teaches you something valuable about yourself and what you truly want. You stop viewing failed relationships as time wasted and start seeing them as education in the school of life. When you reach this level of acceptance and gratitude, you become immune to the pain of rejection because you understand that every ending is actually a beginning in disguise. Nietzsche understood that true power comes not from forcing outcomes, but from reaching a state where outcomes become irrelevant to your inner peace. In relationships, the ultimate demonstration of strength is genuine indifference to whether she returns or not. This is not the fake indifference of playing hard to get or manipulative games. It is the authentic indifference that comes from having something more important to focus on than her approval or attention. Indifference is magnetic because it signals high value and abundance. When you are genuinely indifferent to her comeback, it means you have other options, other priorities, and other sources of fulfillment. Women are naturally drawn to men who seem to exist in their own reality, rather than revolving around female validation. The moment you stop needing her to complete you is the moment you become complete enough to attract someone who truly deserves your attention. This philosophical indifference is not coldness or cruelty. It is the natural result of building a life so rich and meaningful that no single person can make or break your happiness. You become like the mountain that remains unmoved by the storms that rage around it. When she sees that you have achieved this level of inner strength and self-sufficiency, she will inevitably wonder what she gave up. But by then you will have moved so far beyond who you were that her regret becomes just another passing cloud in the sky of your magnificent existence. The greatest revenge against someone who underestimated you is not proving them wrong, but becoming so extraordinary that their opinion becomes irrelevant to your reality. Nietzsche showed us that true power comes from within and cannot be given or taken by another person. It can only be developed through the disciplined pursuit of self-overcoming and authentic purpose. When you master these philosophical principles, you transform from a man who chases validation into a man who creates value, from someone who reacts to circumstances into someone who shapes his own destiny. The question that will determine your future is this: will you continue living as a slave to other people's opinions and decisions? Or will you finally embrace the uncomfortable but liberating truth that your happiness depends entirely on the choices you make every single day? If this message resonated with you and you want to continue developing the mindset that makes you truly unstoppable, then subscribe to this channel and join thousands of other men who are committed to philosophical self-improvement and authentic personal power.